So it all started one day when I was 5. No, I'm so embarrassed by this, but whatever. I'm just going to say it. I cried. And because I had never been confronted with something that I wouldn't just excel at right away. And I was baffled. I said I did all of the work ahead of time. I made sure I was psychic, and I can't do this. What's going on? I think everyone experiences the ego being stabbed. It's so uncomfortable that many people ignore it. They anesthetize so that they don't have to deal with that, the uncomfortableness. One time at the Monroe Institute, I was doing some remote views. We were doing these types of views where you would get judged and you would sort of get a score. Like you would either get a perfect hit, or so that was a 1, or you would get a 4, which is like an F, you failed. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be really good at these because, I'm a really intuitive person. I'm really psychic, so I'm going to do great. And I just got multiple 4s after 4s after 4s, and that crushed me. And we had a break, and I went out I just went on a little walk. When I was on that walk, as my ego was being fatally stabbed, my gut hurt. I felt alone. I felt weird. I felt unpopular. I wanted to go into a hole and only come out when I was perfect and good at everything. That was how I felt in that moment, but that wasn't reality. I couldn't do that. I talked myself out of that, and I said, oh, you're just going to keep on going and it's okay. All right. So you didn't get a first place match on these. And yeah, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how ridiculous I was that way. But I think that's what stops a lot of people from going further with we'll just call them psychic senses or their spidey senses. I talk about that time in my life often because there were so many pivotal moments with my handful of visits there. Now, I don't mean that having an ego is bad. I'm just saying that I had a lot of fears at that time about what would happen if I came out as an Akashic Records reader, or I came out as a remote viewer or a dream guide, and I wasn't right. Like, oh, that would be the worst thing in the world for me because I had structured my life so that I would always be good at whatever it was I was doing. So that meant that I spent a lot of time studying, a lot of time reading, a lot of time talking about something, practicing it before I would do anything more with it. And that also meant that I spent a lot of time just discarding things that I actually thought were fun, but I didn't pursue them because I wasn't immediately good at it. That fear of being wrong stops a lot of people. Having that ego death was necessary because my ego was out of balance. I was associating my identity, my self-worth with how good of a remote viewer I was. And that's not balance. That's like saying, or that's like arrogant. And so it was out of balance. So having that experience, yes, it was cathartic because it allowed me to reach more of a balance and saying, okay, I'm not, my self-worth isn't defined by my products. And, you know, that was something that I struggled with outside of, let's say, remote viewing. So, like the exercise, so the exercise of remote viewing just allowed me to finally address it. But that imbalance was hitting on many parts of my life. So I'm so thankful that I had that experience, even though it was horrifying and uncomfortable. And I think ego death is something that you can really point to. Like you can point to a specific time when you remember when, let's say, your ego got a fatal blow. But that is the point where the transformation begins. And from there, it really is a process. Some people might let the ego dissolve away gently, and then that's that, and it's just kind of a blip on the radar. But for some people, the ego goes away kicking and screaming, and it can take a while, and you can fluctuate, you can go back and forth, right? So you can have days where you feel very balanced and you're not having any fears about what if I'm wrong, or what if I mess this up, or holding back what you want to say because you're afraid that you'll say it wrong. Like, so you might have better days and then days where you're really struggling with it. But what I think is important is to just maintain the awareness around it. And when you do have those less than ideal days, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't talk mean to yourself. Don't say, oh my God, you're still doing that. You know, just say, oh, okay. Oh, wait a second. That's me. That's my imbalanced ego talking. That's my arrogance talking. And okay, I'm just going to go back to center, and it's okay. I'll leave that where it is, and I'll go forward with a different energy today. I have had times in my life where, let's say, I wasn't in a class, where I could fall in that temptation of going and hiding. And I have done that. But I'll also say that there's no judgment around that. Sometimes we literally need to disconnect. But I just want to say, but don't talk mean to yourself. Like, don't be mean. Don't judge yourself or be hard on yourself in those moments, because then you will live that reality of being alone, of feeling like you're stabbed in the gut and feeling bad because you are imperfect. Now, looking back, it's like I would be talking to little me, right? And I would be saying mantras to myself. You are good. You are loved. You are enough. Those words that we say to each other can really get us through those tough times when we are really being mean to ourselves, when we're judging ourselves, because that's the opposite of what we would be saying to ourselves. Like, oh gosh, you can't do anything right, or you always screw this up, or people are going to think you're a fraud. That's a big one that I've seen in classes that I've taught, is people think that if they come out and talk about their intuitive hits, or they share what they remote viewed, or they share what they channeled, or we're talking about Akashic records, if I get a person in front of me and I'm telling them what I'm perceiving from their Akashic records, they're going to laugh at me. They're going to say, that doesn't resonate at all. Like, you're totally wrong. And oh my God, that will kill me. That's being mean to yourself. If you stay in that stuckness, life will just suck. I would call that shadow work, right? When we work on ourselves, everybody else benefits. And so if we're seeing, oh, well, that person over there is a narcissist, but really, when we're seeing that narcissist, we are seeing the reflection of ourself. It's just, maybe we don't act like that, but there's an aspect of us where we come out that way as well. It's just labeled something else, or maybe nobody sees it. So everybody would definitely benefit from allowing themselves to do shadow work. And I mean, for me, the best way to do it is to look at your dreams and see what is the first thing, what's the low hanging fruit. And then from there, you start to integrate the healing. And then more fruit will start to show in your dreams. And then you can say, okay, now's the time to reach up and grab that. You don't want to just say, oh, well, I'm so messed up. Well, I mean, I guess, so there could be different ways, right? So people might tend to say, oh, I'm so messed up. This would take 20 years of therapy. Forget it. Like, I'm just messed up. Just forget it. And you might just give up right there. Other people might say, well, I've got to literally change everything right now. And then they just throw everything away, move to another country, cut off everybody, all of their relatives and friends, and they just literally start over. People do that. But I think the healthy thing to do in most situations is to grab that low hanging fruit first, look at your dreams, say, okay, this is the thing that is going to die this month, and work on that. And then allow yourself to practice not having that and see how well you've integrated it, right? And then move on to the next thing. And yeah, it kind of becomes a lifetime of shadow work. But after the first few layers, it gets really easy and kind of enjoyable and kind of interesting, where you can look at yourself and say, oh my gosh, oh, that's coming through. Okay, let me get on that. What happens in dreams is that we're sort of subject to our fears or our hangups. So in a dream, and I'm just going to make this up, but in a dream, I might grab a book and open it, and then I'm scared of what's inside. So I just close it immediately and I won't look at the information in there. Or I might go to a library and it's closed or it's locked or something. And that's kind of like me saying, I don't want to access this information, or I'm scared to access it, or I'm blocking myself off from accessing this higher dimensional information. So I would definitely recommend, if you see it in your dreams, then your dreams are going to show you what you like to do and what you might be good at. So where does your energy want to flow, right? So if you see what you're doing in a dream, well, go ahead and try it in your waking life and see what you think about it, or take a class or something. Because when you're sitting here in the physical, you're going into it head on, right? You're facing it. Even if you do maybe have anxiety around it, you're facing it. And so it's just a whole different experience. Some people are really good at lucid dreaming, and that might be a technique that you could use, especially if you are really good at lucid dreaming and you maybe have a little bit of, I don't really want to say fear, but maybe you don't trust your senses as much if you're just fully awake, right? So when you're lucid dreaming, you are in a much more relaxed state. So you might find that you are more willing to dive deeper, and you can talk to the beings, if there's beings that show up, or energies, or shapes, or colors, whatever. But if you want to take that step of digging into that ego, doing the shadow work, if you're serious about it, I want you to contact me and start with just having me look at one of your dreams, and we'll see what direction your dreams are pointing you.